Hi, Jerry Venz, Light at the Edge. On my last video on dramatic studio lighting, doing these old tools and guns in the studio, I did traditional studio flash photography. And it turned out really nice. While I was doing that, though, I thought to myself, well, why don't I compare this to light painting in the studio, which is something I'd never done before. So I did some research on it. I've done some light painting outside on large objects, trees and such, doing nature and time exposures with getting Milky Way and that kind of stuff. And it was pretty easy, actually. This, I think, is a little more complex because I have so many small subjects that I've got to get light onto. And I want to try to do the same level of quality lighting with good highlights and directionality of the light to mimic what I did in the studio. With the main light and the kickers and reflector and all those lighting tools now gone because I'm going to light paint. So we're down to just this, basic LED light. I'm using an LED light that's got capability. It's a light stick also. So you've got your basic, pretty powerful LED for doing highlights and like a spot. And I got a little snoot on it so it doesn't flare into the camera. We don't want to show our light as we're doing the painting. So I got a little snoot on there with Cinefoil. Great stuff, Cinefoil. And then I go to the light stick for creating a long highlight, which is what I needed down the barrel of the shotgun. So this will create a broad light and get it done quicker. So because I'm trying to do this in a 30-second exposure and get it all in one take. A little more complex. So with that imprecision in mind, it's going to be interesting because I've never done this in the studio before. One thing I had to arrive at is exposure. I can't meter this. Again, the imprecision of it is kind of daunting. So what I reasoned was when I did my outside nighttime photography, Milky Way and light painting all combined, and those were 30-second time exposures, but that was at 3200 ISO, and a 30-second time exposure at 2.8. So in the studio, because I want a higher quality, the products don't handle noise well, and so I've got to go the other direction, and I want a lot of depth of field. So I'm going to do it at f16, but I'm dropping my ISO down to 125, still doing my 30-second time exposure, so it should have a lot less noise and have the quality and depth of field all at once. So those are kind of my fixed parameters for the exposure, and then of course the final analysis is how much light I put on, which again I can't measure, I just have to wing it and paint, and we'll see how it turns out. And you're doing this in total darkness. So again, there's that element of imprecision and the unknown quantity. So I'm going to actually show you in low light, bring my ambient light down, and turn this puppy on and show you how I painted it. And we'll have a final result I hope I can compare to the studio lighting one I did in the previous video. And we'll see which one we like better. So that's what I'm going to do. Give it a shot here. Okay, we're going to get this going, get the flashlight ready to go here, hand on the switch. I'm going to simulate this, obviously, since I'm showing it to you. This is normally done in total darkness, of course. So I'll go through the 30-second exposure like I did on the still version and show you how I'm painting this. Put some highlights, trying to mimic the highlights I had in the studio lighting. And I keep it moving, of course, never pointing at the camera. Got a little bit there. Then I switch to the stick. And this thing's got a really hard switch to use, not the best. Don't point at the camera, and always keep everything moving. So I ran a highlight all the way down the barrel a couple times, back over here, and then I did a swoop out of the frame, create something interesting at the top, Okay. Well, you saw how I did it. One of the problems I had with this light is that it's a little slider switch from going from one mode to the other. And it's got 4 positions, and it's not easy to move. I think it'd be better to have a light stick LED combo that would have separate switches or be easier to use. It's hard to do in the dark. But it did put out a good light on the light stick for putting a highlight down the barrel. I noticed that was really good. It was actually better at putting a highlight all the way down the barrel than was my softbox. Softbox had a hard time getting a highlight down at the very end. Where it didn't fare well was getting really crisp highlights on everything, especially the knife, the very dark blade. I didn't get much light on that because it just kind of sucked up light. So again, we don't have that precision that I do in the studio with my kickers to actually aim the light across. So some good, some bad. The biggest problem I had was in post. The color, the LEDs produce really wacky color. It's very greenish, and it was very hard to get the warm tones that I was easily getting with studio lighting. So it's very critical, I think, if you did this professionally, I did a lot of this, to get a CRI, color rendering index, on my LEDs closer to 100 that I can get, which is closer to daylight, 5,000 Kelvin. And most of the LEDs you can buy are not. They're terrible. They're way down the spectrum. And a lot of color correction was required. I had to go into channels and mess with color quite a bit to get the light painted version to match the studio lighting version. And you'll see that. We'll put both images up, and you can take a look and see what you think. I kind of like both, but for different reasons. So it takes practice doing this. But the big thing is, I think the hardest part is getting a 3-dimensionality and direction with this, where it's very easy with studio lights. So take a look at the images, tell me what you think, and this takes practice. I'm going to be doing more of this. It's kind of fun. So that's about, I'll wrap this video up. Jerry Venz, The Light at the Edge. Do check out my training site, lightattheedge.com, where we offer students portfolio reviews all the way up to training. And also check out my blog, which I do every week, every Tuesday. A new blog comes up, been going on for 3 years, and that is goboist.com, G-O-B-O-I-S-T.com. And that's training stuff too. It shows all various technical things I've done over the years and how I solve problems, a little bit of history there, and how I do portraiture inside, outside. So check that out, and hey, we'll keep doing this. This is fun. Jerry Venz, Light at the Edge.